How's it going, everybody? This is Novakast back with another video. With this one, we will be responding to another one of Greg's videos, and I think if I do my responses, or at least my rebuttals of some of the things he says, I am more likely going to do this, like maybe every few days or so, even though at this point, he's literally just cranking up videos every maybe day or so, or every 12 hours maybe, even though some of these are just repeating the same remarks over and over again for about 15 to 20 minutes a piece. So, but enough about that. So without further delay, let's go ahead and get started with this video's rebuttal to one of Greg's recent videos, which is titled just Rant, I guess. No context, just Rant. Yeah. And he wonders why his views are declining. Because he makes all these clickbaity titles thinking it's gonna work and get him views.
Hey, what's up? I wanted to make a message for Joe Rogan.
Doubt that.
So I wanted to say that I love his podcast. It's a fantastic podcast, but it's also unbearably annoying sometimes. And the reason it's unbearably annoying is because a lot of times Joe Rogan, he acts like he's this insightful person as far as having a fair and balanced opinion on things. And it's incredibly inaccurate to say that, because the man is a walking, talking anecdote.
So for those who don't know, anecdote means a short, amusing, or interesting story about a real incident or person. Also similar to an account regarded as unreliable or hearsay, or the depiction of a minor narrative incident in a painting. So by using that word, it seems like Greg is trying to claim that Joe Rogan is nothing more than a naysayer, somebody who is a false recollection of information, so to speak. This might not be in connection to what we're talking about right now, but it's funny that, Greg is using a word like anecdote to describe an individual, but he can't write a fucking good story. Neither music or a video for that matter. Also, if you really think about it, especially with some of the things we talked about on the channel, you yourself, Onision, is a walking, talking anecdote.
Okay? He's used and addressed the whole Antifa, which by the way means anti-fascist, okay? Anti-fascism.
Oh god, are we really going here right now?
We're calling it Antifa because we don't want to say anti-fascist, because if we said anti-fascist, people would go, what's wrong with anti-fascist?
Now, just so people know, this is, just my opinion. In terms of what Onision just said, I don't think the problem is what is anti-fascist. I think if anything, when it comes to, talking about Antifa, especially in the presence of anybody that's involved or a member of Antifa, the real question is, what do they consider as anti-fascist, or fascist, if you will? And unfortunately, when it comes to Antifa, their response to what they believe as fascism or anything against their ethics, their response is usually in terms of violence or destruction. Hiding behind masks, they attack people that don't agree with them. During the riots, they will raid, vandalize, and destroy property, helping, the community inside the riots burn down towns. So, in a sense, and this is the sad part, because whenever, at least this is what I've seen thus far, especially when you just type in Antifa and it's nothing but violence, somebody tries to have a conversation with them, their immediate reaction, we're going to attack you. different opinions don't matter to them. What matters is their opinion and their opinion alone. In fact, if anything, it's hypocritical for them to quote-unquote attack fascism when they are themselves are committing an act of fascism. Heck, because of their acts of violence, there are some parts of the government that want to consider Antifa as a terrorist organization, cracking down on them so that way this whole Antifa craze is removed from the public, because it is very toxic to, when it comes to trying to deal with the situations that we're already dealing with right now.
They say Antifa, and they're trying to blend that with Black Lives Matter protesters, which, by the way, the majority of Black Lives Matter protesters are Black Lives Matter protesters, hence why they call themselves Black Lives Matter protesters. It's not like there's some huge conspiracy there. The majority of people are all about presenting this concept that Black lives are equal to all other people, and the reason they say Black Lives Matter is because a lot of people act like Black lives don't matter. It's not that all lives don't matter, it's that we need to focus on this specific thing, okay?
Okay, so this is going to be a really hard one to talk about, because, well, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, and kind of like feminists or feminism, I get it. Because everyone wants equal rights. I do. I truly believe that, we should have a community where everybody is treated equally. But, like feminism, there are people, and I'm not saying everybody, so please, in the comments, don't leave, an angry comment saying I'm saying everybody. I ask you to listen to everything I'm saying. Some people, not everybody, make it as if that they should be superior. That they treat and degrade other communities. People who have been a part of feminism, or radical feminism as we are now calling it, make it, or want the narrative that women should be superior instead of equal. Whereas, communities like Black Lives Matter, some people, they want it so that they are superior and want to attack or treat other communities like garbage and make up these ridiculous situations where, people who had no part in slavery hundreds of years ago to pay for what, our forefathers did. First of all, it makes no sense considering that a lot of other communities, since, America, it is a melting pot of culture. Are you going to tell, I think it was reparations, are you going to have every white person pay reparations? What if their ancestors weren't even from this country around that time? What if, for instance, some of those people, or some of the people who had no situation or no involvement in that, they immigrated, let's say, around World War I or World War II, or pretty much way, way after the Civil War. So what? Just because, people who are white have the same skin color as the people in the past, then they automatically have to pay for something, or something that their ancestors did not do? And here's something else, and I know this is a controversial opinion, especially to certain communities, but let's face it. If you're going to stereotype somebody by their skin color and try to make them pay for something that honestly they had no involvement, or more likely their ancestors had no involvement in, then I'm sorry, but that would be a form of racism. stereotyping somebody for their skin color. Something that a few people in the Black Lives Matter claim that all white people do.
So Joe Rogan's running around, blabbing his mouth, saying that the people in Seattle who tried to take over Seattle, I guess, I know nothing of this case, but the point is he takes this anecdote and he keeps saying, oh, that Antifa, these people are crazy, the Black Lives Matter protest has gone out of control because I have this anecdote that I keep saying over and over again every single...
You know, he keeps using that word, but I don't think he really knows what that means. And by the way, I looked up, Seattle and Antifa, and one of the more frequent things that comes up is apparently Antifa illegally taking control of a section of Seattle. Kind of like what they did with that other area, I believe it was called Chaz. They're doing the same thing here. In which case, you do realize that under their rule, businesses that, who are in that zone will have to deal with their own form of fascism under the rule of Antifa and the protesters who are in that zone. You do realize that, right? That was one of the problems in the last area that protesters took control of, where they made certain rules for businesses to keep, so that way businesses can keep running. They had to follow certain protocols, otherwise something would happen to their business. By the way, just so you know, looking at an article from the New York Post, they talk about footage that was posted on Twitter about members of Black Lives Matter demanding that people who are predominantly white to leave their residence and give them their belongings. So I think I'm just going to say right off the bat that the riots themselves, it's to a point where it's getting too far. Actually, let me rephrase. It's already going too far. There's a point when you want to try to protest, or at least, do a peaceful protest, and at this point, try to reason with the person you're protesting against. But there is another when you go out of your way to try to harm other people. And at this point, as I pointed out just a little bit ago, because of their skin color. In the article, it also describes that these people claimed that even though they may not had, or their ancestors, their family, had nothing to do with what happened hundreds of years ago, because they're white, they are part of the problem. That is racist. I'm sorry. That's, when you hear that, you cannot claim that it isn't. Because I'm white, and because white people did something terribly, and I'm gonna say right now, what happened was fucking horrible. But you cannot immediately put blame on the people today because they're white. Not everybody is this sort of collective. Not everybody is related to, the forefathers of 100 years ago. You cannot put the blame on every single white person that is living today. Because at that point, you're doing exactly what they did.
These people are destroying government buildings. Why would they do that? It doesn't make any sense why they destroy government buildings. Maybe because they're mad at the government? Maybe because the government has wronged them through hundreds of years? Has wronged black people? And so they're thinking, you know what? I'm going to take it out on a government building.
First, it's ironic for Onision to be saying these things after he's been called out for, having sort of a racist standing. More likely to try to cover his ass in case somebody came for him. And 2, you are literally justifying people destroying, buildings, property, things that have been around for years. You are justifying people being aggressive instead of peacefully talking it out, which I think at this point would probably be the better way to go about things, is to have a sit down and talk about what's going on and how we could fix it. If anything, come to an agreement on certain issues. But no, instead, we have people who are going out and destroying property. And I'm going to say this right now. I've said it before. You have the protesters who want to talk, but you have the people who destroy, vandalize, riot, and raid. And at this point, those people aren't there to protest. Those people aren't there because they feel like they have some moral obligation. Those people are there because they want to do something evil. Instead of trying to find a way to talk about it, they want to be aggressive. They want to let their rage out. And at this point, when this protest involves, destruction, the harm of others, it's no longer, a protest of ideas. It's just people committing an acts of evil. Plain and simple.
Anyway, he also talks about transgender people. And I wanted to say something specific about anyone talking about transgender people. First of all, this is a group of people who aren't anecdotally discriminated on. They're
keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Widely discriminated on by many, many folks. Okay, the transphobia is everywhere. Okay? It's crazy how it's everywhere. Just like a lot of when they say, people are treating black people unfairly, it's not anecdotal like your Seattle example.
So I know I'm continuously harping on this, but I gotta ask, do you guys think that Onision just found a random word like anecdotal and is using it repeatedly to try to make himself sound smart? Because unfortunately, that's the way I'm seeing it right now. Because as we've pretty much stated, anecdotal is something that is not reliable. So by saying not anecdotal, it means it is reliable when it comes to some of the information, or it's not. I'm trying to understand his logic here. But then again, like I said, it may be he just found a complicated word thinking that nobody would find the definition for it, and then proceed to repeatedly use it in the video to try to make himself sound intelligent.
It's all over the country. Black people are being treated unfairly by an enormous amount of Americans. So, and around the world too, I'm sure, but I'm fairly certain that it's primarily in America that we are so discriminative towards black people. It's totally...
Not to sound like I'm trying to downplay discrimination, because that's not my goal. But ultimately, when it comes down to, discrimination, everyone, and I mean everyone, suffers from some form of discrimination. I myself, when I was younger, mentioned the fact that I might be part German. And immediately, from a large group of people, started calling me a Nazi. And when I was younger, I didn't know who or what they were, till I had to look it up and realize, how much of an insult that was. To be classified by a particular hate group that my family had no part of, but only because we're German that we're being called that. I think at this point, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Asian, Mexican, if you're fat, skinny, you're a man, woman, or whatever. People will find ammunition to hate you or dislike you. So far, on this planet, we have tried to strive for world peace. And for whatever reasons, we always find a reason to hate each other. And ultimately, instead of like trying to fight or become violent when we're being pushed back, we really need to find a peaceful solution. Not go burning down towns or enclosing ourselves in a large section of a city, creating some form of self-preserved martial law. We just need to sit down and talk. Now, I know some people are probably going to say that's not going to work. All I have to ask is, especially since, at this point, since one group of people only wants their side, have we ever tried to make a compromise with each other? Because I'm just going to say, because from some of the things I've seen on the news, it's only, we demand this, we demand that. Not, let's sit down and talk and maybe come to a compromise. Or figure out what needs to be fixed. Instead of just making demands. And acting entitled. And at this point, harming communities because they aren't getting their way.
We have Joe Rogan who goes around talking about transgender people, and first of all, if you're a cis male, okay, and your expertise involves watching people eat spiders and being a comedian, you probably shouldn't be giving your insight on whether or not you think transgender people are valid, or whether or not they should be in one field or another, how they feel, who they are. You should just STF you.
So, let me get this straight. You believe that if somebody is in the entertainment business, goes and discusses their own points of view, that they need to just stick with the entertainment business and not give their own opinion.
Are you serious?
And that actually brings up another question I have. Unless you want to make yourself sound like a hypocrite. So, people in the entertainment industry, or have been in an entertainment industry, shouldn't give their opinions. So, vice versa, does that mean you shouldn't be giving your opinions right now? Since, after all, being a part of YouTube and the entertainment industry, you have taken part of said entertainment industry?
Because you don't know what you're talking about. You've never had dysphoria. You've never been born in a body that you didn't identify with. All you are is this cis male who's just sitting here acting blah, blah, blah.
I swear to God, the lack of hindsight in what this guy says is just so fucking incredible. You are a cis male, and you've never had dysphoria. So, in turn, you shouldn't be saying shit either. If you're gonna play those kind of standards, dipshit.
Being trans isn't just like something that you can just figure out with common sense. You have to live it, okay? I'm married to a transgender person, okay?
You know what, it's interesting that we never hear these complaints from, I don't know, the spouse. Like as if Greg is the only one talking. As if he's the only one that has an opinion on this shit. Also, wasn't there an allegation that, or at least speculation, that at this point when it comes to your behavior, your spouse may be trans, but it may not have been 100% their decision. Especially since, you know, through the public videos that you've posted, it seems like you've manipulated people in certain situations. So more likely, this was speculated or alleged to be a situation where you manipulated your spouse to be trans.
Even I don't know everything about it. But Joe Rogan goes on the show and he's like, oh, transgender people, blah, blah. Shush. You don't know what you're talking about. Stop talking about things you don't know what you're talking about.
And that's the same advice we give you every time you say something stupid.
And the ultimate point that I'm trying to make here is nothing he says seems to do any good for the transgender community. But he's trying to act like he's a good guy who has some wonderful input to add to the internet. He's not. No. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay? Unless you're going to say, you know, I support the black community and I'm 100% behind Black Lives Matter and so forth, and then shut up, you probably shouldn't talk about it. Because you just don't understand. You don't understand. You aren't black.
So let me understand the gist of this video. So you attack Joe Rogan even though you say you like him. But you're telling him also that because he's a celebrity and because he's not trans or black, he can't talk about particular topics that interest him or that he is concerned about. I'm sorry, what? Especially since I should point out that when it comes to the two things that I just mentioned, you're neither of them. In fact, if anything, in past videos, very discriminatory. But let's face it, you're just gonna claim that, oh, those were comedy videos. No, dude. Discrimination is still a discrimination. And it's ironic that you're talking about this shit. Acting as if you actually care. If anything, I feel like you're just doing this so that way, if any backlash, you can be like, hey, I've been on your side the entire time. Please don't send hate towards me. You're fake, dude. All I have to say, when it comes down to it, your sentiment is fake. And it's ironic that you were attacking Joe Rogan for the exact same thing that you do. Actually, if anything, you do it far worse than he will ever do it. So, as you try to tell Joe Rogan, you can shut the F up.
Oh shit! Burn! Burn!
Alright, I think that's enough for today, or at least for this video. Thank you so much for watching, truly appreciate it. If you guys have any thoughts, I know I can already tell right off the bat that a few people are going to be watching this video, and I'm going to get hate from a couple of you. So, but I do ask, because all I ask is, conversation, and if anything, to understand different points of view, at least in a very civil way. So if you guys have any thoughts on what I said or what Onision said, leave it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, links are in the description, as well as check out our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob of Novakast signing off. Have a good one, and take care. Peace.